Hey, so even if you are generally a positive and happy person, it is inevitable that sometimes in life we have to give or share bad news. So today we are learning some useful phrases for when you have to give someone bad news. Now, some of these phrases are a little more formal, some are a little bit less formal. You can use them in lots of different situations, and today we're going to talk about some examples of when to use each one. So let's get started. Our first phrase is, we regret to inform you that. We regret to inform you that. Now, this phrase is quite formal, and we usually see this in emails or in formal writing, not so much in conversations. Okay, so keep that in mind. We regret to inform you that. You can use this if you are delivering bad or negative news in an email. So for example, let's say that you applied for a job and the company hired someone else. They might write an email to you saying, we regret to inform you that this position has been filled. We regret to inform you that this position has been filled, okay? Or maybe you've applied for a program and you did not get accepted. You might receive a letter or an email saying, we regret to inform you that your application has not been accepted at this time. We regret to inform you that your application has not been accepted at this time. So remember that this one is quite formal, and you will see it more in written correspondence or written communication, and it's not really used in conversations. Our next phrase is, after careful consideration, we've decided to, or we've decided not to. After careful consideration, we've decided to, or we've decided not to. Now, this one is also quite formal, so it is appropriate to use at work or in professional situations. And it basically means that we've thought about it carefully, we've really thought about it, but, okay, so it's a more formal way of saying that. So for example, after careful consideration, we've decided to go in another direction. After careful consideration, we've decided to go in another direction. Or, after careful consideration, we've decided not to proceed at this time. After careful consideration, we've decided not to proceed at this time. Now, also notice in these examples that I'm using phrases like right now or at this time. A lot of times when we give bad news in professional situations, we soften the news a little bit by using phrases like at this time, at the moment, for now, okay? Generally, we're saying no, or we're rejecting someone or not accepting to work with them. And it softens the message a little bit when you say at this moment. It also implies or suggests that things might change in the future. So this no is not a forever no. Now, be careful with this, because if you want to say no to someone forever, then you can avoid phrases like for now or at this moment, okay? So just be careful with it. If you think that there is a possibility that things might change or the situation might change in the future, then you can go ahead and use these kind of phrases. But if not, then just leave them out. Next up, we have the adjective unfortunately. Unfortunately. Unfortunately is very common for starting off a sentence or a phrase in which you are going to share some not so great news, okay? Unfortunately. And after unfortunately, you can say a lot of things. For example, unfortunately, we cannot, or unfortunately, we are not able to, and then a verb, okay? So for instance, imagine you have placed an online order. You've ordered something or purchased something online, but the company is not able to process your order for whatever reason. You might receive an email from them saying, unfortunately, we are unable to process your order at this time. Unfortunately, your order cannot be completed at this time. Unfortunately, we are not able to process your order. Now, unfortunately can be used in formal and informal situations. You can use it in both writing and spoken conversations, all right? So let's say that a friend invites you to a party or a social event and you're working. You can simply say, unfortunately, I'm working. Unfortunately, I can't make it. So this is a really, really good, versatile, simple one to use anytime you have to give someone some not so good news. Next up, we have despite my best efforts. Despite my best efforts. Despite my best efforts means that I tried to do something, but unfortunately I couldn't, all right? So despite my best efforts, and then you want to finish your sentence. And this one is also a little bit formal. So for example, despite my best efforts, I was unable to convince him. Despite my best efforts, I was unable to convince him, okay? So I tried, but I couldn't convince him. That's what it means. And you can also replace my with our if you're speaking on behalf of a team at work, for instance. So for example, you could say, despite our best efforts, we were unable to complete this task by the deadline. Despite our best efforts, we were unable to complete this task by the deadline. So we tried, but we couldn't do it, okay? Bad news, we couldn't do it. Now keep in mind that this one is also a little bit formal, so I would recommend using it at work when you've tried something, but it didn't work, okay? Another example, let's say that you have been trying to help a customer. Maybe you have been trying to find a certain product for them and the product is not available. Okay, so you say to them, despite my best efforts, unfortunately, I was not able to locate this product for you. Okay, so a little bit more formal. This means that you wouldn't really use this one in a social conversation. So let's say that a friend has invited you out for lunch and you can't make it. You wouldn't really say, despite my best efforts, I cannot make it out for lunch. You can say it, it's not wrong, okay, it's not incorrect. However, it sounds a little bit unnatural and a little bit formal for that situation. So you always have to keep in mind your tone, all right? I speak a lot about choosing the right tone and getting your tone right here on this channel, okay? So always keep that in mind. Should you be formal? Should you be a little less formal? You always need to consider the situation, right? So despite my best efforts, this one is a little bit formal. Next up we have, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Now this phrase, I'm afraid, does not mean I'm scared when you are giving bad news. It can mean you're scared of something. So if you say, for example, I'm afraid of the dark, it means you're scared of the dark, right? I'm afraid of something. Of course, this means you're scared of it. But if you're delivering bad news and you start your sentence with I'm afraid or I'm afraid that, it basically means unfortunately. It's very similar to unfortunately. So for instance, you could say, I'm afraid that I can't make it. So if someone invites you somewhere and you want to give them the bad news that you cannot make it, you can say, I'm afraid I can't make it. It's just like saying, unfortunately, I can't make it. Okay? Let's say that someone proposes something to you. They propose an idea to you maybe, and it's not going to work or you don't like it. You can say, I'm afraid that's not going to work. I'm afraid that's not going to work, all right? So I'm afraid used in this context, giving bad news or not so great news, just means unfortunately, all right? So pay attention when you hear someone using I'm afraid like this. I'm afraid of means you're scared. I'm afraid that is when you are giving someone bad news. Our next phrase is due to and a reason. Due to a reason, it won't be possible to. Due to something, it won't be possible to something, all right? So for example, due to our current budget, it won't be possible to hire more staff. Due to our current budget, it won't be possible to hire more staff. Or, due to my current workload, it won't be possible for me to take on this project right now. Due to my current workload, it won't be possible for me to take on this project right now, all right? So with this structure, you are giving a reason before you give the bad news, okay? So because of this, because of whatever reason, this is the bad news, all right? So this one is a little bit formal as well. The phrase due to basically means because of, but it's slightly more formal, okay? So again, I would recommend to use this one in slightly more professional and formal situations. Now, since this is a vocabulary lesson, if you are trying to take your English vocabulary skills to the next level, make sure you check out the weekly English Words membership. Now, this is an awesome self-study monthly membership created by myself and teacher Tiffany. Now, the weekly English Words membership is designed specifically to help you learn English vocabulary naturally in the context of natural conversations and to learn how to talk about tons of different topics, all right? I will link it down below this lesson so you can check it out. Now let's look at some slightly less formal phrases. Next up we have, I tried my best, but. I tried my best, but, all right? So for example, let's say that a friend of yours has asked you to go away for the weekend with them and you needed to take some time off work to do that. You really wanted to go, but you didn't get the time off work and you have to break the bad news to them, okay? You might say, I tried my best, but I couldn't get the time off. I tried my best, but I couldn't get the time off. So this one is a lot more conversational and you can use it when you are turning down an invitation, for instance, all right? This one is more neutral and more conversational. I tried my best, but. Next, we have, I can't see how. I just can't see how. So for example, let's say that you're facing a difficult time, a rough patch with your partner, your husband, wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, okay? And you've been fighting, you haven't been getting along, and they really want to fix it. But you think that you can't fix it and it's time to break up, okay? And you say to them, honestly, I just can't see how we can fix this. I just can't see how we can move past this. I just can't see how we can make this better, okay? This one you can use in lots of different situations. It is more conversational, less formal, more neutral, okay? But you can also use it at work. It's not necessarily formal, but it can be used in pretty much any situation. It is neutral. It's quite neutral. So an example at work, let's say you're speaking to a colleague and you realize that you cannot meet a deadline. You might say, I can't see how we can meet this deadline. I can't see how we can finish this by tonight, okay? So this can be used in different situations. It's a more neutral statement, and I can't see how this can happen means that I want it to happen, but it seems impossible. It looks impossible now. Next, we have an idiom. It's out of my hands. It's out of my hands. It's out of my hands means that I can't do anything to help in this situation. So this phrase is very useful for when someone has asked for your help and you can't help them. So it's out of my hands means that you don't have the power or the authority to help in this situation. So for instance, let's say a friend of yours has applied for a job at your company, okay? And they're following up with you, they're asking you, so do you think I'm gonna get the job? Can you talk to your boss? Can you talk to HR, right? And you don't have any say in the hiring process at your company, okay? You can tell your friend, sorry, it's out of my hands. There's nothing I can do. I don't have the power or authority to help in this situation, unfortunately, okay? It's out of my hands. It's up to someone else, basically. Next is another common, nice conversational phrase to use when you are giving a friend or family member some bad news. You can say, I hate to break it to you, but. I hate to break it to you, but. So for example, let's say a close friend of yours has asked someone out on a date numerous times, someone that they are romantically interested in, but that person keeps saying no. Okay, they keep saying no, but your friend keeps asking. They're persistent. They really like this person. They think, okay, eventually it's gonna happen, right? And they come to you and they ask what you think. They say, do you think that he or she will change their mind? Do you think that eventually they'll go out with me? And you see that is not happening, okay? So you can say, I hate to break it to you, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I hate to break it to you, but I don't think they're ever gonna say yes, okay? So I hate to break it to you. It's just like, I'm sorry to tell you this bad news, but I hate to break it to you, okay? This one is a little more informal and more conversational. And a very simple and straightforward one is, I have some bad news. I have some bad news, all right? This is a statement that is very clear and to the point. I have some bad news. This is a statement that's very clear, direct, and to the point. You have some bad news. So then you can go ahead and proceed to share whatever the bad news is. Now, this one will probably make your listener panic a little bit because if you hear, I have some bad news, you go naturally into a little bit of a panic mode. You're like, oh my gosh, what is the bad news, right? So be careful with this one. You don't want to cause people unnecessary stress, but it is very common and very useful and very easy to use. You simply say, I have some bad news, and then go right into your bad news. So there you have it. These are some useful phrases for sharing bad news, both in personal and professional situations. So pick the ones that you like, and the next time you have to give some bad news, try using these, whether you are writing an email or whether you are sharing the news over the phone or face-to-face, and let me know how it goes. If you have any questions on this topic, do drop them down below in the comments. Don't forget to check out the weekly English Words membership. And you can also grab your free ebook to help you have better conversations. This ebook is called English Conversations Made Simple. It's totally free. I'll link it down below the video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you very soon in another one.